Ask yourself, why risk 5 hours a week and hundreds of dollars a month on an interaction with a 90% chance of failure? This generation sees dating as a high-cost, high-risk hazard. Platforms like OnlyFans and virtual reality have given them zero-risk, plug-and-play alternatives. They are not maturing. They are withdrawing sovereignty over their time. We are witnessing the calculated, structural collapse of courtship. Tap to understand why your time is more valuable than a relationship. While his change is often seen simply as discovering self-control or maturing past viewing women as only sex objects, the real, broader context is even more powerful, and it's a trend noticeable in a new generation of young men. For them, this shift isn't just about women, it's about reprioritizing their entire life agenda. They are moving their focus away from chasing temporary excitement and instant gratification, whether that's casual dating or seeking validation, and channeling all that energy into a grander, more concrete goal: building their personal success, wealth, and lasting legacy. It represents a fundamental switch from a mindset focused on consuming pleasure to a mindset focused on creating value. This deep commitment to self-improvement and future building is truly what excites them now, making previous superficial interests pale in comparison. This striking difference in perspective reveals a deeper fracture. The shift is so profound that, for many young men, women are no longer even considered a worthwhile minimum investment. While older generations would at least chase, spend, and commit time, even if the underlying motive was sex, this current group simply sees women as not worth the effort, even on the most basic level. They are actively choosing self-sufficiency, self-clepization, over any engagement that requires financial outlay, dates, bills, or emotional energy, relationships. This isn't just about maturing past sex objects. It's about an extreme reevaluation where the time, money, and hassle involved in interacting with women are viewed as resources better spent entirely on building their own empire. This signals not just self-control, but an overall devaluation of the traditional dating dynamic, where personal ambition completely overshadows relational pursuit. This seismic shift in priorities fundamentally redefines the modern male experience, moving the goalposts from external validation, attracting a partner, to internal construction, building one's future. This abandonment of traditional courtship is a response to several interconnected factors that have eroded the perceived return on investment of dating. Historically, a woman represented a necessary component for societal success. She was a partner in building a home, raising a family, and often maintaining the social fabric. The expenditure of time and money was viewed as a down payment on a valuable, long-term asset. However, the rapid cultural and economic changes of the last few decades have altered this equation dramatically. Economically, women are now independent, which is a positive development for equality but removes the historical incentive for men to compete and provide solely for access. Sociologically, the legal and social framework surrounding divorce and family formation has become increasingly complex and, in the eyes of many young men, financially risky. They perceive modern relationships as carrying high upfront costs, dating, gifts, time, with a significant potential for catastrophic loss, divorce settlements, child support, and little guaranteed emotional or practical support in return. The modern empire builder sees time as his most critical, non-renewable asset. In the highly competitive, globally connected digital economy, the difference between success and mediocrity is often measured in focused hours. Therefore, any activity that interrupts the flow of production, concentration, and skill acquisition is deemed a drain. Dating, with its inherent unpredictability, emotional labor, and demand for non-monetizable leisure, becomes the prime suspect for sabotage. The logic becomes ruthlessly pragmatic. Why risk 5 hours a week and hundreds of dollars a month on an interaction with a high probability of yielding frustration or emotional distraction, when those same resources could be channeled into learning a new coding language, building a passive income stream, or expanding a business? This is not just apathy, it is the calculated application of a business model to one's personal life. Furthermore, the rise of digital alternatives has provided easy, low-cost substitutes for the historical benefits of female companionship. Entertainment and, critically, sexual fulfillment are readily available through platforms like OnlyFans, pornography, or even virtual reality. These digital substitutes require zero emotional investment, zero risk of public embarrassment, zero legal or financial liability, and zero loss of productive time beyond the immediate moment of consumption. They are the ultimate plug-and-play solutions to primal urges, reinforcing the idea that women, as complex human beings requiring effort, are simply inefficient in meeting these needs. The phrase self-clepization is not just a crude term. It represents the ultimate act of reclaiming sovereignty over one's time and energy, symbolizing a complete withdrawal from the interpersonal market. This wholesale withdrawal creates a self-reinforcing cycle. As the most ambitious and productivity-focused men opt out, the dating pool shrinks, and the remaining dynamic becomes polarized. Women who feel frustrated by the lack of quality male partners may raise their expectations further, demanding even more from the few men who do engage, thereby validating the original decision of the opt-outs. Conversely, the men who remain focused on external ambition harden their resolve, seeing the female reaction as proof that the market is too demanding and too volatile to be worth entering. Ultimately, this trend reveals a profound crisis of connection. The traditional contract between genders, where men provided material resources and protection in exchange for emotional support and family formation, has been unilaterally cancelled by a generation that views material resources as the only true source of security and power. For these young men, the pursuit of women has moved from being a primary motivator for success to being an inconvenient, expensive distraction from it. This radical shift signifies a monumental devaluation not only of the traditional dating dynamic but, in their cost-benefit analysis, of women's relational contribution itself. The ultimate fallout of this shift is the death of traditional relationships, a crisis spanning the globe from America to Uganda. Young men are choosing digital fulfillment, like OnlyFans, over real-world investment because, for them, the cost of engaging with women, even non-sexually, is too high. This is framed as a matter of lost productivity. Especially for men focused on wealth building, spending time with a woman, dating, talking, maintaining a relationship, is viewed as a substantial loss of valuable time that could have been used to create money or build an empire. As one's time becomes more valuable, that loss compounds, leading these men to conclude that the effort, financial outlay, and relational commitment are simply not worth the sacrifice to their personal ambition. This crisis point, where men actively choose self-directed pursuits over the complexities of dating, is not a passing phase. It is a structural shift that is only set to worsen. The core issue, the perceived value deficit, is driving a widening wedge between men and women, threatening the very foundations of traditional social structures. This trend is self-reinforcing, creating a negative feedback loop that accelerates disengagement on both sides. As more men witness their peers succeed, building their financial empires rapidly by dedicating all emotional and economic resources to work and refusing the cost of relational effort, this behavior becomes the default, reinforced model for success. The success of the solo builder validates the strategy of non-participation. Why would a young man choose the slow, costly, and uncertain path of partnership when the express lane to personal power involves unilateral focus? This generates a new social norm where intense, isolated productivity is synonymous with ambition, and dating is seen as a regrettable tax on that ambition. The result is a self-fulfilling prophecy with devastating consequences for the relational landscape. Men disengage because they feel women offer insufficient or negative value for the time and money invested. This withdrawal then forces women to confront a severely diminished dating pool of high-quality, ambitious men. Faced with this scarcity, and perhaps internalizing the narrative that they must demand their worth, women may inadvertently increase their demands or become even less willing to emotionally invest, wary of the few men who do remain. This reaction, in turn, further confirms the men's original assessment. See? The effort required is indeed too high, and the return is negligible. This circular logic traps both genders in a continuous cycle of suspicion and withdrawal. This continuous feedback loop ensures that the current trend, the widespread rejection of marriage, formal dating, and even simple non-sexual engagement, will intensify. A return to traditional relationship models, which were predicated on mutual need and gendered interdependence, becomes increasingly unlikely. The long-term effects of this mass disengagement are profound. For men, while they may achieve earlier financial independence, they risk sacrificing emotional depth, social connection, and the resilience that comes from navigating long-term compromise and intimacy. They exchange a broad, messy life for a narrow, optimized existence, potentially leading to later-life loneliness and a lack of support structures. For women, the consequences include a structural deficiency in the marriage market, making it harder to find partners who are both financially stable and willing to commit. This necessitates greater female independence, pushing them to pursue hypercompetitiveness and careerism, inadvertently reinforcing the very dynamic that led to the male withdrawal in the first place. The market responds to supply and demand, and as the supply of committed, high-value men shrinks, the relational landscape becomes harder to navigate. Furthermore, this crisis is exacerbated by digital culture. Social media constantly parades idealized, unattainable lifestyles and partners, elevating expectations on both sides while lowering the tolerance for real-world imperfection and effort. Men see unattainable perfection. Women see men who aren't trying hard enough, and both retreat to curated digital bubbles that substitute for genuine interaction. The challenge for society is enormous. Without a fundamental recalibration of mutual expectations and perceived value, the current system will continue to fracture. The conversation cannot remain focused on simply blaming men for being ambitious or women for having standards. It must shift to how both genders can genuinely co-create a partnership dynamic where the shared value of the relationship exceeds the cost of the individual effort. Until that value equation balances, the current trajectory toward increased isolation and the complete dismantling of the traditional romantic model is inevitable. The tragedy of this crisis is that it is driven by rational calculations rooted in self-preservation, yet its outcome is the impoverishment of collective social life. The younger generations are essentially engaging in a relationship strike, and their refusal to participate is fundamentally reshaping the future family structure, for better or worse. At this stage in their lives, young men are seeing less and less value in women, and that shouldn't be the case. Traditionally, the fundamental drive for men was to go out, compete, and strive to earn the right to attract women. The motivation was clear: work hard, earn money, look your best, and then enter the dating scene with the ultimate goal of finding a wife and starting a family. I belong to the last generation that truly experienced this dynamic. A lot of our drive to get on and get money was directly linked to securing a desirable partner. Growing up, especially in the Black community, the goal was to find a woman you could proudly take to church, a wife for life. But that whole framework is gone. Now, it's not even a matter of "I want a girlfriend," or even "I want to sleep with you." The thought process has become, done that before. It's not worth the effort. It brings too many problems. This kind of fatigue and calculated withdrawal usually sets in when a man is in his 40s, after decades of experience. The shocking difference is that so many young men are feeling this way now because they are already clapped out. They have already experienced everything sexually. They've done it all, and they now feel there's no mystery left, no real conversation to be had, and ultimately, no compelling reason to invest in traditional pursuit. These young men look at their female peers and decide there is no point in engaging. They feel they have nowhere to go with these young women, asking, "Why bother talking to her? Why deal with her? She just irritates me." A difficult truth that many will resist hearing is this: if young Black men in a community no longer value their women, it becomes incredibly difficult for other people, outside the community, to change their minds and view those women differently. This is a significant problem. The widespread devaluation of young women by their own male peers signals a huge, problematic fracture in the community structure. If young women fail to understand and embrace compromise regarding what these ambitious young men are seeking in relationships, the outcome is set. It's easy for women to defiantly say, "I don't need you anyway. I'll just do my own thing." That stance is simple to adopt until the predicted consequences actually start happening.